There comes a moment when you study history and stop, pause and think, how on earth did people make it through that? That moment hits hardest when you look at the frozen landscapes of Europe during the Second World War. Soldiers faced nights so bitter that even modern thermal sleeping bags would have failed long before exhaustion did. Frostbite and hypothermia were constant threats, and honestly, conventional comfort had no place on the battlefield. Survival wasn't about having the fanciest gear. It was about a simple, almost brutal principle: trap heat, block wind, and endure until morning. And from that principle came one of the most overlooked survival techniques in military history: the shelter tube. But before we dive into the systems that actually kept men alive in sub-zero conditions, take a moment to support the hard past. Hit that like button if you enjoy deep historical survival knowledge. Share this video with a friend who appreciates raw, real-world history, and leave a comment with your thoughts. Subscribe to The Hard Past for more lessons drawn from the harshest chapters of human endurance. The problem with modern survival thinking is that it often focuses on comfort instead of necessity. Most high-end sleeping bags are designed for controlled conditions: a dry patch of ground, lofted insulation, and a sleeping pad to prevent heat loss. Soldiers rarely had any of that. Wool lost heat when wet, down collapsed, and men often slept directly on frozen or waterlogged terrain. Military-issued cold-weather sleeping bags were heavy, cumbersome, and frequently abandoned during rapid advances. But the real threat wasn't just conduction through the ground. It was wind, evaporation, and the sheer challenge of staying motionless in freezing temperatures. A single gust could carry heat away faster than layers could replace it. Soldiers learned quickly. Blocking airflow mattered more than piling on insulation. From necessity came invention. The shelter tube was not a manufactured item, but a battlefield improvisation that literally saved lives. Soldiers would take issued shelter halves, ponchos, or canvas tent pieces and join them into a cylindrical cocoon. Two men would button or lace these halves together, wrap themselves fully clothed inside, and seal the ends with packs, snow, or spare garments. This created a dead airspace where body heat was trapped and wind was blocked. Snow piled on top acted as insulation rather than a threat. German mountain troops perfected the technique with the Zelt barn, a triangular canvas that could link into long tubes. American mountain divisions and Soviet troops adapted similar methods, sometimes partially burying tubes in snow to stabilize temperatures. The outcome was crude, but honestly remarkably effective. Inside temperatures often rose above freezing, while the outside remained far below zero. Sleeping bags primarily combat heat loss through conduction, keeping body heat off the ground. The shelter tube addressed three main enemies simultaneously: wind, conduction, and evaporation. Soldiers slept fully dressed, boots on, often with several men in the same tube, to maximize shared warmth. Condensation formed on the inner fabric rather than soaking insulation, and it could be aired during daylight or simply tolerated. The tube multiplied efficiency as more heat was generated inside than escaped, a principle modern survival guides often underestimate. Military manuals and veterans consistently attest that shelter tubes saved lives when sleeping bags alone would not have. Translating this historical knowledge to modern survival is straightforward. You don't need original canvas or military-issued gear. Any tarp, poncho or heavy fabric will work, but the shape is crucial. Flat shelters lose heat quickly, cylinders trap it. Roll a top lengthwise into a cylinder just wide enough to crawl inside, overlap the seams, and seal the ends with snow, dirt, or gear. Elevate yourself from the ground using spruce boughs, spare clothing, or folded jackets to reduce conductive loss. Keep boots and a hat on and breathe slowly to manage internal moisture. If you share the tube with a companion, the warming effect multiplies. Alone, reduce the internal volume as much as possible. The system is simple, effective, and has been tested under the harshest conditions humans have endured. The answer is discomfort. Tubes are awkward, unattractive, and offer little in the way of luxury. Soldiers didn't care about comfort, they cared about survival. The system enforced discipline. No sprawling, no unnecessary movement, no wasted energy. In modern survival culture, where gear is marketed as sleek, lightweight and convenient, these lessons are often ignored. Yet historical field improvisations, like the World War II shelter tube, demonstrate that survival is not about purchasing the latest equipment. It is about understanding physics, physiology, and the environment. Soldiers who survived winter campaigns weren't warmer because of sleeping bags. They were warmer because they understood how to work with the elements. Studying these old systems provides not only practical survival knowledge, but also a window into human resourcefulness under pressure. The shelter tube teaches lessons in patience, ingenuity, and respect for the natural forces that modern gear cannot replace. It's a reminder that history is not simply a story to be read. It is a guide to enduring, learning, and surviving. If you found this exploration into historical survival methods valuable, make sure to subscribe to The Hard Past. Share this video with someone who still thinks survival is all about buying gear, and leave a comment with your own experiences or thoughts. History isn't just a record of the past. It's a toolkit for surviving conditions where mistakes are unforgiving.